Okay. Hi class, I'm Heidi, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how technology is currently negatively affecting the way humans think. And I know what you're thinking, like how is it affecting us if I made it to college? Well, let me tell you that computers, smartphones, and technology in general give people the access to what today is the most important thing in the whole wide world, which is the internet. My claims are how dependence on technology has caused people to use their brain more and less at the same time. At a young age, children who are exposed to the internet start having issues with their personalities and relationship with their parents. And my final one, like students have a difficult time in school with classmates, professors, teachers, and assignments after spending so much time relying on the internet to answer for them. My first claim is how the dependence people have on technology has caused to use their brains more and less at the same time. You're probably thinking, how are you using it more and less at the same time? People can be very forgetful, whether it's remembering they have an assignment to do, an errand to run, or simply making a phone call. Huffington Post says that 39% of us have forgotten or misplaced something in the past week. Website ZDNet had said that Betsy Sparrow, a psychologist from Columbia University, did research on individuals who to show that people are more likely to remember things when they think they won't be able to find the answer on a computer. And her researchers also found out that people are better remembering when the facts are stored instead of remembering it themselves. So people tend to rely on electronics to do tasks for them. So that's how you're using your brain more and less at the same time. You're using it less by you're overdoing it, which is my next point, how according to CNN, adults spend 10 hours and 39 minutes on their electronics, and children spend up to 75 hours per week, which is 10 to 11 hours a day. Which is almost the same amount as adults. So that tells us that we're overdoing it with our brain, but we're using it less by not remembering to use it. It's not only children who do this, but it's also adults, especially ones with professional jobs. So an example would be how a doctor, on doctor's note, they would abbreviate instead of like medical terms, they would abbreviate with like texting terms. Also on autocorrect, the keyboard comes in different languages, so we rely on the keyboard to correct it for us, and we half our spelling because we know that it's just gonna correct it for us. My second point is how children at a young age, children who are exposed to the internet start having issues with their personalities and relationship with their parents. So you know how children rage even like if you don't give them the tablet to watch their YouTube. I know my little cousin, after like a good 30 minutes they take away the tablet, or that he doesn't get it in the first place, he just starts screaming and yelling. You have no other choice but to give it to them. So this is a problem because parents distract them or shut them up by giving them their phones and tablets so they could be entertained and not bother the parents. And not interacting with their babies and their kids weakens their relationships and the children's personality, because if they can't even address or even talk to their parents, or the parents are shutting them up and like putting them away, don't bother me, how can they approach other people? And this messes up the cognitive development, which is the construction of thought processes, including remembering, problem solving, and decision making. So it'd be okay if a parent would give their child a tablet or a video to watch, but they're not even interacting with them and teaching them how to develop the way they're thinking. My final claim is how, like children, students have a difficult time in school with classmates, professors, teachers, and assignments after spending so much time relying on the internet to answer for them. So students depend on the internet as well. So we know we're incredibly addicted to social media and anything on there. So that means that we don't know how to study. We do really bad on exams because we're trying to study, we're on our computer, and we one thing leads to another, and then we end up on Twitter or Netflix or something, which would be the internet. We don't know. Students also don't know how to interact with others because they just spend so much time on technology. So they don't know how to work in a group, because even if they are in a large crowd, they're on their phone, so they just tend to forget, or they get social anxiety just approaching someone, they freak out. And they don't challenge themselves in school because they Google search everything. So when they get to college, or not even to college, but in high school, they have a hard time because the work is really rigorous and it requires critical and strategic thinking, and they can't challenge themselves because on exams they're well, we can't use their phone, and that's how their exam scores are low. which is why some students don't make it through college. So yeah, in conclusion, just the internet affects the way people think. Even if it's for a purpose, our brains develop differently because we just depend on it, and it doesn't allow us to interact from the world. Thank you.
We'll start with something that's a little tough because sometimes people feel sensitive about these things. You drop your voice when you get nervous and you mumble a little bit. And for the first third of the speech, half of what you're saying gets lost. So you need to look up a bit, you need to project a little more, and you need to pace yourself so that we can hear you. You're better in the middle part of the speech when you start talking more like you're a human being and not reading. But then toward the end of the speech, you do the same thing again. So, in my public speaking classes, we talk about all these kinds of things. We spend time, I have people practicing stuff like that. And so they're used to having people talk to them about this. I'm sorry if it sounds a little kind of harsh coming out of nowhere, but it's a delivery thing that if we can't hear and understand what you're saying, that's going to be a problem. I couldn't tell what your second point was in the preview at all. Now, when you got to it in the speech, you said it pretty clearly. But like I said, at the beginning, it was just like, it was something. Yeah, I mean, I knew there was something there, but it needed to be clear. All right, the propositions identified, except for the problem that I just mentioned about the preview, things were relatively clear. You did set up a structure for us to follow. The body of the speech, you signpost each of the points as you get to it, and you did say those clearly in the body of the speech. So that part's pretty solid. The first section is the one that you have evidence on. You've got some information there that talks about people's memory and the likelihood of forgetting things. And there's some relationship to the use of technology, but it's not a very clear relationship. That needs to be a lot stronger to make the point that you're trying to make on that first point. The second and the third points are all assumptions that you're making, explanations of ideas and concepts without any grounds for those sorts of things. You need some information to back those points up. I'm not saying that they're wrong, I'm just saying you don't have any proof that they're right, except that you've got like a hypothetical example, or you've got your cousin as an illustration of those kinds of things. But outside of that, your grounds are really kind of skimpy on that particular point. Right? There you go.